On certain nights, when the clouds were just right, the boys could tune into strange patterns of static. Rollo thinks it's aliens. He always thinks it's aliens. Luca's winter coat decommissioned for the summer. With the cold holding out longer than usual, he reconsidered its usefulness. Holden Wilder ran the local paper of record, the Beacon. Miss Hatch could often be found near the fountain, too absorbed in a book to be distracted. Oh, right! Rendezvous with Roxy. This is an important turning point. The first time where your charms will change the course of fate. And currently, we only have one suitable charm at our disposal. Have no fear, we can always return later using the Chronicle once we find more charms. Well, now I'm just rambling. Where were we? Rollo froze as Roxy took a step toward him, cracking her knuckles. Luca knew he had one chance to save his friend from being dragged home. In the past, he found the best way to deal with an enraged Roxy was to be a little chill. A promise Gran regretted the second it was made. The phone booth was brand new. Part of Perennial Harvest's Beacon Pines it didn't see much. Luca peeked up at the beehive. It appeared to be deserted. The Valentine Mansion loomed over every other building, both figuratively and literally. The path led into a small hollow at the edge. The fence thrummed with a gentle electric buzz. Luca often asked himself what Rollo would do, so that he could rule out that option. As sparks flew from the fence, the light atop that section shut off. 2 bulbs remained. One more to go. The fence's buzzing gave way to silence. Every kid in town knew the old Valentine fertilizer building. Long abandoned, the warehouse once served as the industrial heart of Beacon. Now, it stood only as a reminder of things left behind. The dormant building showed strange signs of life. There was only one way to find out. Luca thought he heard faint sounds coming from the other side of the door. He pressed his ear against the cold metal to hear better. The sound of footsteps grew louder. The heavy steel door knocked Luca to the ground. Disoriented, he looked up to see an imposing figure silhouetted in a green glow. It lunged toward him. He tried to scramble away, but felt a gloved hand latch onto his ankle. Luca watched his fingernails leave trails in the dirt as the hand slowly dragged him back through the door into the lab. This is a story about change. It was far from the sort of change Luca imagined for himself, but change is, after all, a dangerous animal. The end? I probably should have warned you about this. There are many paths that our story can take. Most will end in tragedy, but don't let that discourage you. We will find the ending that this story deserves. I just know it. From here on out, a charm will have a check mark when it's been used to its full potential at a given turning point. Now, let's try something different. This is a story about change. It was far from the sort, but change is, after all, the... There are many paths. Most will end. We will from here on out, a charm. Now, let's try. In the past, he found the best way to deal with an enraged Roxy was to be a little shit. Solomon Valentine, current ward of and future successor to the Valentine fortune, huffed as he brushed off his pants. Solomon trifled a gesture toward the approaching heiress Valentine. As the glowing windows of the old warehouse came into view, Rollo began to bounce. The boy sat petrified under the weight of the bag. Rollo felt around at the large sack which burdened them. He snapped off a tag from just within a small zipper opening in the back. Willow held the badge up to a faint shaft of light within the dumpster. Lucas sat in the dark, tracking the sound of Rollo's footsteps as he ran. 1, 2, 3. He pressed his ear to the dumpster wall, straining to hear Rollo's footsteps as they faded away. 15, 16, 17. He tried not to think about the contents of the dumpster as he counted. 35, 36, 37. The thick stench made it hard to breathe. Screw it, that's long enough. Luca carefully lifted the lid. Nothing. No sign of Rollo. No sign of the man in the yellow suit. Time to haul ass. Luca clambered from the dumpster, stumbling to his knee. He was up like a shot and running, sprinting toward home as fast as he could. Beacon Pines flew by, blurred by the tears that welled up in his eyes. He wouldn't remember getting home at all that night. Throwing his front door open, storming up the stairs to his room and surrendering to sleep almost as abruptly as he hit his pillow. Chapter 3. Finding a friend. The next morning, it was quieter than usual at the breakfast table. Only the sound of silverware and chewing interrupted the awkward silence. Gran's brow furrowed. She let out a long sigh. Her voice was... An eerie electronic sound echoed from Luca's bedroom. A pit formed in Luca's stomach. Luca's mouth felt dry. Luca could feel his heart beating in his... Kato volunteered at the library during the summers. He wasn't very social, so he'd dedicate each summer to becoming an expert in a single subject, making him a reliable source of very particular knowledge. If you were to ask Kato something he didn't know, he'd escape into the dusty old bookshelves and return with just the right... Kato was lost in his reading. Luca crooked his neck to see the title. He gestured to the shelf. The entire top level of the library, most of which were Hank Atomic and Beck's family moved often, giving her little time to establish any real connections. She would tell you she prefers it that way. Luca shifted his feet. Beck pulled a coin from her pocket. Luca felt a chill as he approached Beck. Her eyes were locked on the strange green liquid. The nearby grass was coated in a fine layer of frost. Luca watched as Beck dipped a broken tree branch into the goo. Beck's eyes widened as flowers grew from the dead wood. First small buds, which quickly bloomed into vibrant petals. As quickly as they had grown, the flowers began to shrivel and turn. Beck dropped the stick with a grunt of disgust. Iggy took a step towards Luca, his sneer lit by the glowing puddle. Beck could see tears welling in Luca's eyes, his fists clenched. Some things about Beacon Pines were very different from the city, but a bully from a hayseed town is really no different from a city bully. Beck took a deep breath and thought. Well, time to bust out the strange. Beck stared in silence, the only sign of life being the twitch of... At the sight of Iggy taunting Beck, something in Luca snapped. Iggy's smirk shifted to a look of shock as Luca launched himself into his stomach. Iggy's clothes were drenched in the glowing... Iggy's voice began to slur as he struggled to get up. The person at the warehouse, the strange ooze, and what it did to Iggy. Was Rollo caught up in all of... Beck glanced toward Luca. Rollo was safe. A wave of relief washed over Luca, which was quickly replaced by a sense of dread. Gran is going to kill me. If he hurried, he might just make it home before sundown. Chapter 4. Our harvest awaits. Luca took a deep breath and gingerly opened the door, steeling himself for Gran's wrath.